We found the bird face down on the sidewalk outside the laundromat. Small as a fist, feathers the color of ash after a bonfire, chest fluttering like a broken Morse code. My daughter, Nia, gasped so hard you'd think the sky had fallen. I reached for the paper cup in my hand to shield it, as if a cardboard circle could keep the world from ending. "Daddy, it's breathing," she whispered, kneeling so close her breath moved the bird's head feathers. "We have to help." It was late March in Atlanta, the kind of day that promises spring but smells like rain. The neon open sign in the laundromat window blinked its tired eye, and the street kept moving. Someone arguing into a phone, a bus hissing at the corner, a woman balancing 3 plastic bags like blessings she didn't ask for. No one else noticed the bird. I know what some people say, leave it. Nature knows what it's doing. But nothing about my life felt like nature. It felt like overdue notices and night shifts and a car making an expensive rattle I was pretending not to hear. It felt like I used to be someone headed somewhere and then one day I wasn't. I used to run track. I used to think I'd coach, pour my lungs into a whistle and make kids believe they were faster than fear. Now I stocked pallets in a warehouse under lights that buzzed like bugs. We slid the bird into an empty shoebox lined with the hoodie Nia had taken off because she runs hot the way kids do when they think joy is their birthright. She held the box like a secret. Back in our apartment, she set it on the dining table, wobbly leg propped with a folded credit card bill, and watched that little chest rise and fall with more authority than anything in my life. We dimmed the lights. We Googled. We called a wildlife rehab line that reminded us. Warmth, quiet, dark. No water bowls it could fall into. No loud noises. No touching unless necessary. Hope, but don't rush hope. Nia named it Monday, because everything hard and important in her life seems to happen on a Monday. Then she pressed her forehead to the edge of the box and whispered, "It forgot, that's all. It forgot it had wings." That sentence followed me like a chaperone. It followed me when my boss texted, "Can you cover tonight?" It followed me when I opened the freezer and did the calculus of nugs versus rent. It followed me to the bathroom mirror where a 37-year-old man with a tired beard and good intentions looked back from under the kind of fluorescent light that never loved anyone. Perched on my shoulder at 2 a.m., when the birds outside were asleep and the girl in the next room wasn't. Because math facts are hard and life is weirder than the worksheets explain. If you paused this story right now and asked yourself, where am I grounded and where am I forgetting? You'd be halfway to the ending. But let's keep going. Because it wasn't just the bird that had forgotten. It was me. My name is Andre Williams. When I was 17, a timing gun told me I could run a 400 that made coaches whistle low and write my name down. When I was 19, Nia's mom and I fell in love so fast it felt like a sport we could both win. By 21, the ambition that used to lace my shoes gave its energy to diapers and double shifts. And I told myself I wasn't losing anything. I was trading up. Maybe you've done that math. Trade your dreams for the version of yourself who pays for groceries. I don't regret Nia. I regret the parts of me I let rust while telling myself I was being noble. We were 3 for a while, then 2 in a schedule. Nia's mom moved to Macon with her new husband, good man, kind to my kid, which is all I asked the universe for and then some. I had Nia 3 days a week and every other weekend, plus whatever extras life demanded. Life demanded a lot. Rent rose like bread left too long. The warehouse added a new tier of overnight shifts. My car learned to cough. The school sent home a note about reading milestones and a smiley face drawn by a counselor who meant well. I started to feel like a man who stands in the ocean up to his chin, explaining to himself why he isn't drowning. I could carry the heavy things. I could carry more than the job title said. That wasn't the problem. The problem was the heaviness started to carry me. Nia sees everything. She sees the way I pause when the phone buzzes with unknown number, because unknown means you owe. She sees the way I always order water when we treat ourselves to Waffle House and then watch the pancakes like I might pick them up and file them. She sees the way I listen to old track meets on YouTube at midnight, letting the announcer say names I ran with like ghosts. Sometimes she slips in with her blanket and curls on my chest like the kid she used to be and the kid I sometimes forget she still is. Tell me a story from when you were fast, she'll say. Nia thinks being fast is superpower and evidence. I think being fast is proof I had a version of myself I could still visit if I remembered the route. Okay, I tell her. There was this one time, regionals, the backstretch was a wind tunnel and Coach Daniel said, "Andre, listen. Start like they insulted your mama and finish like you're late to your future." I did. We qualified. I thought life was a long straightaway. Turns out it's a lot of curves and one lane you can't always see. She hums. What's a regionals? Just a race that tells you where you might fit. She pats my chest. You fit here. It should be enough. Sometimes it is. Sometimes the enough grows wings and flies around our living room, turning homework into jokes and late dinners into dancing. Sometimes it is a tarp in a storm that keeps the couch dry and us under it. Other times, it's a sentence I say out loud so money can hear me. This is enough, and then the universe calls bluff. The day after we found Monday, the school sent home another note, family literacy night, bring your favorite book. The warehouse sent a message, mandatory overtime. The landlord sent a reminder, rent due Friday. My body sent a memo, my back hurts. My heart sent none, just sat there like a layoff. I bent over the shoebox to listen for the small, stubborn tune of survival. I told myself to keep moving like a man who thinks momentum is the same as belief. Breaking points never announce themselves like parades. They arrive like drips, then the ceiling caves. Mine came as a Tuesday. I woke to the scrape of the upstairs neighbor dragging a chair like a cross, the smell of someone burning toast, the sound of Nia humming the ABCs to Monday because she thinks singing counts as CPR. I shuffled to the kitchen and opened the cabinet where we keep the cereal and found a science experiment in the cereal box. Weevils. Atlanta knows how to humble a man. I swore under my breath and caught my kid watching, soaking up my theology. We'll make eggs, I said, cheerier than I meant. She held up a banana too brown to be photogenic. Smoothie, she said, and we both cheered like we discovered a hack. Small victory number 1. The car, offended by our joy, refused to start. The jump box tried. The neighbor tried. The car made the sound of a man clearing his throat before he says a difficult thing. I ordered a rideshare to drop Nia at school. Used the last of the emergency money that wasn't for emergencies anymore. Small defeat number 1. I got a call from my boss. Andre, need you on nights this week? All week. We're short. I've got my daughter 3 nights. You need the hours? I need my kid. Silence on the line, the kind that tells you you're talking to a schedule, not a person. We'll see what we can do. At lunch, I microwaved last night's rice and ate it standing up near the loading bay while the Georgia heat tried to kill the sun. My phone buzzed. It was Nia's teacher. Mr. Williams? Just a reminder about family literacy night tomorrow. Nia told us you're bringing the book about the boy and the kite. Her voice had the sing-song of "We're excited, and we also check attendance." I said yes before I checked the overtime roster. That yes bought me hope on store credit. After work, I found a letter stuffed into our mailbox. Notice of past due. The edges of my vision did that thing where they pretend to be a tunnel. I leaned my forehead against the bank of boxes like I was praying to the god of better timing. Back upstairs, Monday lifted its head. Nia cheered. Daddy, look! The bird fluttered. 2 inches, maybe 3, and landed against the side of the shoebox like a kid who ran to the end of the driveway and remembered he wasn't allowed to cross the street alone. See? She said, chest puffed out. It remembers. Something in me broke with a quiet I don't ever want to hear again. It wasn't a shatter. It was a surrender. Not the brave kind that leaves your hands open, the other kind where your hands forget they were made to hold anything but fear. I went into the bathroom, turned on the faucet so the old pipes would do their privacy noise, and sat on the edge of the tub. My father's voice, dead 10 years and still paying rent in my head, showed up like a radio that never found a new job. Dre, he used to say, don't let the world set your pace. It'll slow you down in the name of safety, then speed you up in the name of urgency, and you'll forget you were born knowing how to move. I put my face in my hands. It didn't feel like prayer, but it felt like the doorway to one. Daddy. Nia's knock was gentle. You okay? I'm tired, baby. She slid her fingers under the door like she was checking that I was still there. We can be tired together, she said. And then we can practice. Practice what? Our wings. The faucet sputtered and coughed like an old man telling a joke. I laughed in spite of it. I went back to the table. Monday blinked. Nia beamed at me like she'd invented light. Daddy, she said, what if we put the box near the window so it can smell sky? Breaking point met prescription. Sometimes you don't need solutions. You need the next honest thing you can do without lying to yourself. We scooted the shoebox to the sill. We opened the blinds. We sat and watched a bird breathe like it was television. That night, I texted my boss again. I can't do overtime tomorrow. My kid. I put my phone face down and made dinner like a man who keeps promises, not like a man who negotiates with himself until the food is cold. At 2 a.m., when the city got still and my thoughts tried to be louder because there was room, I wrote a note to Coach Daniels, the man who once handed me a baton and a belief. I hadn't talked to him in years. I found his email on the high school's website. Coach, it's Dre. Remember me? I'm still here. I'm trying not to forget. Do you need volunteers? Anything. I can do cones and water and cheers. I hit send, heart punching the keyboard. 2:14 a.m., he replied. Andre, I think about that 400 of yours. Come by Thursday. We're short a JV coach for the spring session. Could you do 2 afternoons a week? Stipends small. The way you looked down the backstretch wasn't. I lay back on the couch and laughed so loud Monday ruffled. Nia's door opened a crack. Everything okay? She asked. We might fly again, I said. Just a little. Family literacy night came. We walked into the cafeteria. Folding chairs in neat rows, kids bouncing like popcorn, teachers smiling like they're paid in love and leftover cupcakes. I expected to be the only dad. I wasn't. There were dads who looked like me, dads who didn't, moms in scrubs, grandparents with careful steps, a woman who brought a tin of cookies like she didn't trust the hospitality committee to know how hungry love is. Nia picked the snowy day. When it was our turn to read, my throat did the thing it does when you're about to cry in a place where crying should be legal but isn't. I took a breath and read anyway, letting the little boy's footsteps through snow say something about fiction and survival. When we finished, the applause was small but true. Nia's hand found mine like it belonged. A counselor with a smile that could argue with grief pulled me aside afterward. We have a running program starting next month. Girls on the run, but we mix in a few boys who need it because life isn't tidy. They need coaches who are kind and committed. You interested? I almost said, I don't have time. The sentence tried to sprint out of my mouth. Then I remembered Eddie's rule. I hadn't met Eddie, but every story has a guy on a corner selling sentences, and mine is my dad. Don't let the world set your pace. I said, I'm interested. She handed me a clipboard like it was a relay. That week didn't magically get easy. The car ate the rest of my emergency money. The landlord accepted a partial and a promise. The warehouse shifted me to swing shifts because I chose my kid. I chose her again the next day and the next. Choice sounds heroic in poems. In real life, it sounds like breathing through your teeth and doing dishes you didn't dirty. Thursday, I jogged to the high school because my car had decided to rest. It was 1.5 miles. My lungs screamed like rusty hinges. I ran anyway. Coach Daniels saw me from the track and laughed his old gravel laugh. Dre, he hollered. You look like you've been running from Bills. That's a different gait than running toward a finish line. Bills are faster, I said, hands on knees. Only if you let them lead, he said, and clapped my shoulder with the hand that taught me acceleration. You still got form. You've forgotten to remember your arms. We ran warm-ups with a dozen JV kids who thought stretching was optional. I watched boys tug their shorts down and girls tuck their fear into ponytails. I shouted, beautiful arms, fast knees. You are not your last lap. And listened to my own mouth like a radio finally tuned to my channel. At home, Monday practice too. It hopped to the rim of the shoebox, paused, fluttered to the curtain rod and back like an apology. Nia kept a chart on scrap paper, Monday miles, and gave the bird a sticker for each new distance across our small living room. We're measuring practice, she told me, not perfection. We agreed to let Monday go when the weather warmed, when those rehab articles said its chance of survival was better than our need to keep it close. That's life, right? Letting go when love wants to hold on. We argued with ourselves about it for days, then wrote release on the calendar like a birthday. If you want to know the exact moment quiet wisdom showed up, it was a Saturday morning and the sky had that early kind of blue that makes every bad thing look like it has edges. We carried the shoebox down the stairs. The lady from 2B peeked out to see what the procession was about. The kid from 1C asked if he could see. We walked to the patch of struggling grass by the back parking lot and set the box down. Monday hopped to the edge and froze like a chess piece. "It forgot again," Nia said, voice trembling. "It's remembering," I said, even though I didn't know. Birds don't do speeches. Monday didn't lift its head like a gavel. It didn't deliver a moral. It leaned forward, shook out feathers that caught the sun, and lifted. A clumsy, holy 2 seconds of air that made the kids shout and the lady from 2B dab her eyes with a dish towel. Monday landed on the hood of my car like a tiny prophet and cocked its head. Then it lifted again, higher, toward the line of scraggly pines that border our lot. It sat there, a small punctuation of hope in a tree that used to hold trash bags. Nia grabbed my arm hard enough to bruise. "Daddy, it remembered." I didn't say it out loud, but what I thought was, so did I. The turning point isn't magic. It's mundane devotion. It's choosing to be the person you promised your kid you'd be, one Tuesday at a time. It's calling your mom back. It's changing your route to work by 3 blocks so you pass the track and remember your legs. It's asking for help with the car and saying thanks in front of your daughter so she sees humility isn't a leak. It's plumbing. I swapped one night shift for 2 earlier starts. The manager grumbled, then shrugged because he needed bodies more than he needed control. I joined the elementary running program. We played tag with a purpose and taught kids that walking is not quitting. It's strategy. Coach Daniels handed me a whistle and a clipboard and said, "Coach Dre." The first time he said it, my heart stood taller. "Coach Dre?" Nia said later that night, tasting the title like a new cereal. "That's us." "Us? I mean, you'll do the coach thing," she said. "And I'll do the draining the pasta thing and the cheering thing and the don't forget to stretch thing." "You're my assistant coach," I declared, solemn as a judge. "Your pay? Unlimited high fives and first dibs on the last slice of pizza." "Deal," she said, and held out her palm like a businesswoman. Quiet wisdom arrived with a practice plan. Move my body, move my money, move my mouth carefully. The running got easier. The budgeting got less impossible. My mouth learned not to say yes when it meant, "I'm afraid I'll disappoint you," and not to say no when it meant, "I'm afraid I'll disappoint myself." I put Dad's old stopwatch on my dresser. I put the past due notice in the freezer. Couldn't afford therapy that week, but the ritual of putting it on ice felt like a decision. When my ex texted, "Can we switch weekends?" I didn't spiral. We negotiated like grown-ups who love the same person. When the car finally died with a sigh that sounded like relief, the JV kids started a GoFundMe I didn't ask for, led by a girl who runs like a poem. They raised half in a day. A neighbor who knows engines gave me a deal on a beater that runs like honesty. No lies under the hood, just a promise to try. On the day Monday didn't visit the pine tree anymore because it had a larger map, I stood in our kitchen and looked at the empty shoebox. Nia had glued a photo on the side. A scribble labeled first flight that shows a blur that could be a bird or a miracle or both. I don't know when I started calling our little apartment a nest. I don't know when I stopped hating the word. What I do know is this: you don't grow new wings. You remember the ones you stalled, and you practice. By May, I could run a slow mile without bargaining with God. By June, I could run 2 and still carry a conversation about superheroes. By July, I started a morning run club in our apartment complex. A loose group of neighbors who want to move before their jobs sit on their shoulders. We call ourselves the upstairs neighbors because someone's always making noise above you and you can either complain or join. I'm not the guy on the poster for transformation. I'm the guy who writes in dry erase marker on our mirror, "Try again, then rest." I'm the guy who texts the group at 6:08 a.m., 2 laps around the block. If you're late, bring jokes. I'm the guy who keeps snacks in the trunk like a Boy Scout for grown-ups. Coach Daniels offered me a small paid position for the fall. It won't pay the rent alone, but it's money that touches meaning, and I've learned to count that as profit. The warehouse adjusted my schedule because people quit faster than they hire, and sometimes your miracle is an HR bottleneck. The elementary running program posted a photo of me and Nia tying shoelaces on kids who run like they're trying to leave something behind and find something ahead. The caption read, "Coach Dre believes in small flights. Nia reads more now, not because I turned our house into a curriculum, but because we picked books where kids do brave things slowly. We still eat Waffle House when the budget nods yes. I still order water, but sometimes it comes with a side of celebration. The landlord still raises the rent, but I talk to him before the letter arrives and we work something out because sometimes the world is a person, not a policy if you look it in the eye." One Saturday, Nia and I walked the path by the river. A mockingbird chased us down the fence line, loud with the kind of song that gets you kicked out of libraries. Nia stopped and shaded her eyes. "Do you think it's Monday?" she asked. "Monday's not a day anymore," I said. "It's a bird. Birds are days," she argued, confident, and then sprinted ahead to prove it. On the track that fall, I lined our JV kids at the start of a practice time trial and said the line coach gave me years ago. "Start like they insulted your mama," I grinned. "Finish like you're late to your future." One boy with a backpack of troubles looked at me like he'd been seen. "What if I don't have a future?" he mumbled, too cool for eye contact. "You have today," I said. "Run that. Futures hate to be chased. They love to be invited." He took off like someone who had been. We released Monday and kept the box. Sometimes we put other things in it. Lies we're done telling ourselves. Bills we can't beat but we can face. Notes to people who deserve to hear, "I'm sorry," instead of, "I'm busy." We call it the wing box. On hard days, we write down the small flights we've managed and dump them in like confetti. On the anniversary of the first flight, we took the box back to the laundromat sidewalk. I set it down where we found the bird. A kid with a bubble wand made the air ridiculous with joy. The open sign blinked its tired eye. The world kept moving. I lifted the lid and found it full of scraps of paper with our handwriting. Paid the light bill on time. Told Miss Karen thank you for the ride. Read chapter 5 even though I wanted to play Roblox. Asked for a different shift. Ran to the stop sign. Didn't cry in front of my kid. Cried later, called my brother. We stood there in public and read our practice out loud like it was scripture. A man passing by stopped and listened. He didn't ask questions. He didn't drop change. He said, almost to himself, "I forgot too." "Me too," I said. He nodded and walked on, lighter by an ounce. To you, reading this, I don't know which part of your life is the shoebox and which is the bird. I don't know what you've put on ice, what you've put on hold, what you've put on a shelf so high you need a ladder you don't own. I don't know which notice is on your table or which dream is knocking under the floorboards like a neighbor with a broom. I do know this, you didn't lose your wings. You stalled them. That's different. Losing is surrender after the buzzer. Stalling is a pause that can remember. The value of your life is not measured in promotions or miles or medals. It's measured in little honest laps around the block, in the way you read the book out loud even when your voice shakes, in the way you say, "Not tonight, I have a kid to tuck in the way you ask for help and then let it help. When the world tries to sell you shame for being human, trade your quarters for sentences that work. Mine are simple. Start small. Small flights still count as flying. Stay kind to yourself first so you don't spend the day collecting apology interest. Set your pace. Life will try to be your coach. It isn't. Practice. Not until you're perfect. Until you remember. And if you still can't feel your wings, borrow mine for a lap. I'll jog beside you. I'll call out your splits. I'll say what my kid said to a bird with a bruised brain and a heart that didn't get the memo. You forgot. That's all. You forgot you had wings. Your turn. A comment this. My next small flight is. Be specific. A call, a lap, a form, a boundary, a bedtime story. If this gave you that little lift, tap so it can find someone who needs a first flight today. Subscribe for daily stories about courage in inches, not miles. And if you pass someone who looks grounded this week, offer a sentence that works. You didn't lose your wings. Then walk with them for a block. Sometimes that's all it takes.